Okay, it's been forever since I've done this, so I don't know if I'm live or not. Okay, let's see what we have. All right, I'm going to read some of these things off. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Can you guys let me know that the sound and the video is coming through okay? Am I actually live? Yay, I am. Woo-hoo. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you for that. Oh my goodness, I have a little crowd waiting for me. Thank you so much. Happy Gregorian calendar New Year to you guys, for those of you who observe those cycles. I find that me personally, I just observe it because everybody else is in celebration about it. And, that's pretty much it. It's more of, for me, deep inside spiritually, it's definitely not right now when the year is turning. For several of you, it may have been the solstice that just passed after the longest night of the year. There's also another pretty significant sect of humans that consider the new year to begin in according to the lunar cycles, which means it won't start until mid-February. And then there's also a group of people that consider the equinox in March to be the beginning of the new year. So I say this to introduce some different thoughts and value systems, because this is what we are going to be talking about: how to navigate this new paradigm and the kinds of things that impact us. So I'm going to go through and say hi to you guys. Hello, everybody. All right, dear sister, this is Wholeness Integration Master. Wow, what a great handle. Hello, hello, hello. Aha. Okay. So lucky that you're able to make it. All right. And we have, thank you so much, Laura. Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Tasha, darling, we just had a message the other day. So good to see you. Know that you're here. And Susan, oh, dear guys, mwah, love you, darling. Emmeline, well, love you too. We just had a little chat not that long ago as well. Thank you so much, guys, for your comments and for letting me know that you're here. We've been doing the chats for so long, and I took a hiatus from that. And I have to say, I really needed that hiatus. I really needed that break. There was a lot of hello, darlings. Okay, this is going a little bit faster than I can read now, so I'm going to put this down. So for those of you who are lunchtime chat fans, do know that I will be coming back more in 2026. That hiatus that I took was something that really needed to happen. The shifts of reality happen, and when we do that, the rhythms that we maintain very often need to change. So I really appreciated to be able to take that time to regenerate, recuperate, and take care of my own wellness, which we all, I think, we wish we prioritized it more for some of us, and for others, it's still a struggle to get it to be the priority or even the dominant value system in our world. So if there are questions that accumulate as I dive into this talk, I'm going to ask that let you guys know that we will be going into the questions. I imagine there will be some. And then we'll do that like middle of the end kind of thing. And then, but for right now, I just want to say hi, settle in with you guys, and just kind of get tuned into what it is that the main points of really what we need to talk about. So for those of you who are new and aren't aware of why we're all here, or who the heck am I? Right? My name is Christina, and I am I would call myself a consciousness accelerator, which means accelerating, expanding consciousness with my work and my visionary capacities. And I also participate in what has been prophesized as becoming the new human. Now, we'll dive into whose prophecies and all this stuff, but for the most part, I think I would consider myself just a normal human that happens to have multidimensional perceptions and qualities and abilities. And this is something that, you know, many of you also can use to describe yourself. So there is a new reality settling upon us individually and collectively, and I am one of the visionaries to help do my part in facilitating and supporting others in doing that. For those of you who are familiar with our blog, the most recent blog post in there is the 4 keys to navigating the new paradigm. And that's really what I want to elaborate on and talk about here with you guys. 2026, not right now, but when the lunar cycles hit the new lunar cycle in the middle of February, the energies are shifting very quickly. And so to speak, we're going to be hitting the ground running with our creations and the energy output. And I wanted to put these forward so you guys can take the last few weeks of this cycle to review and consider where you are at with your value system, where you are at with your inner trust, your capacity to live your magic, your capacity of dreaming the world into being, your capacity of who you are, and your those abilities as a multidimensional human. The new paradigm is talking about a reality with new rules. Okay. Paradigm is a structure or a pattern that establishes the rules of reality, the rules of the game. And we've been under a particular type of setup that has limited our capacities, that has accommodated deactivated DNA dances, has, you know, really quite literally have fallen in consciousness. And I don't want to say fallen as in good or evil, because that's a perception as well. I'm talking about fallen as in we've forgotten a lot of the realities that we used to dwell in. We've forgotten a lot of our capacities to have a very profound influence in this reality. And that is what I would refer to as the fall of consciousness. So we've set up value systems, rules of reality that accommodate that. And sometimes, you know, we unconsciously participated. Actually, most of the time we are unconsciously participating because there's lots of layers of infiltration to facilitate the shutdown. So we are approaching a monumental time of change. And yes, we have been saying this for a decade, right, or more, especially for those of us that were alive and in our spiritual practice as we approached 2012, because that was similar language. But now I think what we see happening here is that, you know, by time 2012 rolled around, we were getting acquainted with what it was to accelerate, to live in accelerated times, where time and things happen a lot faster than they used to. And my experience from then to now is that time has radically accelerated. Things have become very intense. And a lot of things can happen in a very short amount of time. And I don't just mean like events. I'm talking about life shifting events can happen in a split second. So we're really going somewhere, and that I feel is a positive place. And the elders and the different ancestors and the medicine grandmothers and grandfathers of our lineages have been prophesizing these times, have been talking about what it looks like to make this kind of transition. So that's why we're here, to talk about that. And before I go into deeper into that, that you guys, if you want to read the surface level about this, you can go into our blog and look at the 4 keys to navigating the new paradigm. And I just want to say hello to a few folks that are chiming in. Yes, there we go. It's familiar faces. Hello, dear sister. All right, awesome. Shanti, good to see you, darling. Lee, love you guys. So visionaries. You may feel like you're a visionary, you may not. What makes visionaries is that we envision something that is not in place yet. We can envision beyond the structure, the box that we live in. Okay. And if you consider old paradigm, new paradigm, that language, the old paradigm is the box that collectively humanity lived in. And the box has a set of rules that have been given to us through our inheritance. And there's lots of reasons that of why. There's lots of nesting dolls, interdimensional nesting dolls to the structures of this. But in general, we can say that, the rules of reality that were imposed upon our creative, expansive, infinite beingness within the biosuit is literally dissolving, and it's not really possible for humans to move forward effectively without another kind of structure to come in and give us something to connect over and to relate, to resonate with. Okay. So a lot of the realities, truths about reality, are coming forward, and these truths directly conflict with previously accepted truths, values of the old paradigm. So, as visionaries, you and I were visionaries, we have a sense of what it is to be that new human on the other side. What is the new earth, new paradigm that's coming forward? It's like many of us are already living those principles, living those values. And in order for humanity to make that quantum leap into our becoming, right, we need to adapt a different set of values. There's a lot of there's a lot of structures, belief systems that we have digested and put a lot of life force energy into that just cannot survive into that next leap. There's lots of things that have come forward. For example, you're born into a system, you're born into a family, and in that family, you were taught that you need to get an education, you need to get a good job, and if you're a good human, you'll be able to pay bills, get married, have kids, and live out your life as a consumer. And when you die, pay taxes, or your survivors will pay the taxes, and you leave a legacy, right? That's the basic structure. And that just is not going to fly as we go into the new paradigm. There are many people that are very insightful that have been talking about the shifting of the ages, and many of them have acknowledged, doctors, scientists, different kinds of intellectuals have acknowledged that humanity in its current form is headed into an extinction event, mass extinction event. Okay. For example, there's an inspirational speaker named Zach Bush, right? I'm sure many of you guys have listened to him. He speaks about this a lot, and it has to do with the fact that humans devalue themselves and their connection to nature. They devalue nature and its capacity to bring healing, deep healing to our system, to our body, to our mind, to our emotions, right? To our ability to perceive clearly. All of this is impacted by our relationship to nature. But the foundation belief system globally is based out of a paradigm of rejection of nature. The three largest religions in the world are Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And all three of those religions are based on a model of being a sinner, being kicked out. There's this perception of being kicked out of Eden for A, B, or C, right? For eating, apple or whatever the sin is. It kind of varies depending on what version of those different religions you prescribe to. And the interesting thing about this is that it doesn't matter if you consciously prescribe to those stories or not. It's deep in your subconscious because you have inherited from your lineage. So if you have a lineage that goes way back, into any one of these three religions, that programming is buried deep inside. So there is a foundational subconscious assumption that you are separate from nature, that we are somehow an abomination to nature or somehow a cancer on nature, right? Now, that's not to say that we don't cause suffering and don't take responsibility ecologically, all that. Yes, this is all true. But what I'm talking about is the foundational value system in our subconscious that's facilitating these other narratives, okay? So in my awakening process, which started, well, it started many years ago, in the 90s, really. And I would adapt certain belief systems that I truly thought were real. I would full on believe them until some kind of event will occur that showed me that it wasn't true. And they were usually beliefs about myself. And for example, when I was first exploring other kind of religious constructs, right? I explored Catholicism. I explored the religion of my own family, which is being a Presbyterian. My mom's side of the family were classic WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, for those of you who are familiar with that term. And my dad's side of the family, Eastern European and from the Russian bloc. And my grandmother was a devout Catholic. And it was a very traditional form of Catholic. I believe it's pre-Vatican, they call that. Anyway, so as I explored these different things, I would get certain ideas of what was right for me, what wasn't. And one of the things I would consistently reject was shamanism, the idea of shamanism. And I thought that I knew that, you know, magic existed. I knew that spirit, you know, the spiritual realms and all this stuff, but specifically shaman for some reason rubbed me the wrong way, and I would never fully embrace that. And then I was introduced to a particular spiritual practice with breathing and meditation and intention setting every morning. And it so resonated with me. I loved it. And in the process of that, I started calling forward the right teachers, the teachers that were meant for me to help me awaken. And two came forward, a man and a woman. The woman that came forward, and this is energetically, this is not something like in person, you know, I went to a class. Well, later I went to a class, but in the beginning I would discover their works first. So the first one, my mother-in-law came over and gave me an Omega catalog, and I open it and instantly go to this training called Alchemy of the Nine Dimensions by Barbara Handclough. So she was the first one to come. And then the one after that to come, the male, was also through a catalog that was given to me by my mother-in-law at the time. And it was Alberto Violdo, who is the keeper of the Laika teachings of the Q'ero lineage. For those of you who aren't familiar with the term Q'ero, these are the last descendants of the Inca people. And their particular mythology, or their particular story of how they got it very high up into the Andes, into the villages of Q'ero, was that the Inca rulers were priest kings, so to speak. They were sages, and they knew that the Pachacuti was coming. They knew that the conquistadors were coming, and they prepared for it years and years and years in advance. So by time the conquistadors came and the Inquisition of the Catholic Church, they have already shifted their leadership. The most sacred of the sages and the wisdom keepers left the Inca kingdom years before that. Some of them traveled all the way up to the Hopi lands, where the Denai also talk about the coming of the Laika, and their prophecies are very similar. So when I called forward these teachers, lo and behold, they're both shamanic, deeply shamanic, but they were the real kind of shamanic. It wasn't like the there's this Western version of what the shamanic traditions are, and then there's the ones that are rooted more to their origins, which aren't dominated as much with intellectual thought, linear thinking, and logic. There's a lot of abstract. There's a lot of I would say more feminine principles within both of those lineages. And as the years went on, I eventually began to have opportunities to study with both those teachers in person. And what I really loved about both of those is that they both carried prophecies in very different languages, but both saying the same thing. And Barbara Handcloug's teachings is very closely suited to the Palladian teachings, which if you go into the Inca Empire and their spiritual work, they also are deeply rooted in the Palladian teachings. So, and other star people. So there's a lot of roots that go deep into the mystical realms that both of these teachers brought. And that resonated with me so deeply. And it began to wake up something that I didn't even know existed inside. Now I understand it. But back then, it was just an inkling. It was just a calling, right? That I couldn't not do. And remember that feeling. I think all of you guys have this. When you have a calling, it doesn't make any sense, but you can't not do it. Right? It's like you can't explain it to anybody. And if you did try to explain it to somebody, you would feel like an idiot. But yet the calling is there. This is an important moment to recognize for yourself, because this is your spirit. This is your spirit getting magnetized into a situation, or vice versa, depending on how some people look at it as a coming to you. But however you look at it, right? There's a magnetic quality happening. So in the teachings of both of those lineages was this concept of transmissions, this concept of really mapping out the unseen realms and how they create this realm, okay? And then also seeding this idea that there is a quantum leap coming for humanity. And this quantum leap is us coming from a Homo sapien patterning of physicality into a Homo luminous pattern of physicality. Now, many previous to 2012 especially would call that ascension. And I feel like this was something that was a misinterpretation, only because we had a limited idea of what was possible. We had limited ideas of what these unseen realities were about, right? So we imagined that the ascension would mean we're out of here. We're done with these bodies. We're done with the pain of this world. We're done with the suffering. Let's go, right? That was the attitude that a lot of Westerners had in the movement, in the New Age movement. Now, I didn't know what to think, so I would half lukewarm be on board with that idea. But then as things evolved, especially past 2012, even a little bit before that, I started to realize that what we were calling ascension was actually imbuement, as in what is ascending is the consciousness within our biosuit. And in imbuing our biosuit more deeply than what has happened before, that quite literally changes this realm, this reality that we're unfolding. So this is all a prologue to the actual keys to navigating the new paradigm. This is just, just to frame certain things up for understanding when I go into this. The other thing I would say is that there's a lot of unseen subtleties in the collective that preys on our doubt, preys on our capacity to truly trust ourselves, our inner voice, our intuitive voice. Okay, and this is something that we're working out. And it's something, in my experience, can only be worked out in a collective, in a group, in a tribe, if you will. And I don't mean the family unit that you were born to, because many of us were born into a family unit that were not a frequency match for us. Many of us were born into larger communities that weren't frequency matches for us. So as we grow, we start to recognize, oh, this doesn't feel so good. Oh, this over here feels great. Why is it so easy to be with these people and not the ones that I come from, not my tribe, but what I thought was my tribe, right? This is because of that frequency matching thing. And when we stay in an environment where there's a frequency mismatch, we continue to deepen the cycle of doubt, deepen the cycle of not trusting ourselves. Okay. The more we go into harmonic connections, the more we realize how much we naturally already know, the more we realize just how sensitive and perceptive we actually are. And that's because we're meeting on a harmonic and we are open and transparent with each other. In this openness and transparency, what happens is connection, right? And being in a collective becomes an uplifting, nurturing experience rather than one that is a taxing experience with the disharmonic. Okay. So let me know if you guys can feel what I'm saying here around that. Hello, darling. Hello, Ray. Good to see you. Hello, hello. There we go. Oh, Gina, nice to see you. And Lee from Down Under, thank you so much for being here. I feel like new prophecies are coming forward. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, yes. Okay. So more and more of us are waking up to the lifestyle that's actually conducive to our frequency as visionaries. And, we are visionaries because we have come in, we either were born with different encoded differently, or we have received transmissions that encoded us. Okay. For me, I feel like that I was born defunct, so to speak. My encodements were typical human to my family unit. But then as the time codes opened up and I started exploring my spiritual path, I was changing the potential within those encodements by bringing in masterful shamanic teachers that had access to the transmissions to re-encode my system. When I say re-encode my system, I'm talking about literally growing a new light body, and as a result, growing a completely new physical body. Okay. And actually, speaking of Stacy, now that I see your comment, you're reminding me that there's a few things that I want to announce to you guys. If you are in resonance with any of the keys that I talk about, because each of these keys, they don't need to be done in order. You can dive in at any point where it resonates for you. We have some classes coming up that can really help set you up. And one of the first things coming up is a ancestor class done by with Lightbody. Stacy is doing the ancestors connecting with the ancients. Okay, and this is one of the main keys actually is getting straight with your ancestry. And there's a lot to why, so I'll go into the explanation a little bit later, but I just want to let you guys know February 7th is a class coming up. And then we also have a fairy photography class coming up. Our dear sister Laurel, that's in the academy, that facilitates the Forest Wisdom Circle, has an amazing connection with the Fae beings and Fae realms. And they have pretty much taught her on how to connect with them and also how to photograph, how to get these elusive beings in a picture or a video. Okay. So that class is coming up February 21st. So you guys can check that out at the Lightbody Academy website. And if you want to see us in person, which is always so fun, there's an opportunity to come see both Stacy and I in person in just in 9 days, actually, in Aurora, which is northern Denver. Stacy and I will be at the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo, and you'll have an opportunity to do little mini sessions with us. and we can go through some of your blind spots, give you some key pieces that you need to open things up, or maybe give you some things to look at with the ancestry. It's kind of like a energy assessment clearing. And then also on the 11th, that Sunday at 11 a.m., I will be doing a live talk at that expo as well. So if you guys want to come and show your support and play around with us that weekend, I welcome you to check that out. That's the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo, January 10th and 11th. So that would be so much fun if you guys can come out. Okay, so let's dive into the actual keys. Let's get into the nitty-gritty here. So this idea of shifting from Homo sapien to Homo luminous means some deep fundamental pieces in our awareness and our consciousness have to shift or are shifting. Okay. Now, there's this idea that is seeded to us that, you know, it all has to do with your lineage. And this is I'm going to say this is an ancient reptilian concept. This is an ancient Anunnaki concept that is prolific in our collective. And this is because the beings that we refer to as Anunnaki are or were the keepers of the collective field. So they would put, you know, their consciousness and thoughts and feelings, belief systems, values, and all that is a layer within our collective field that informs us. So what I like to say is that this transition into Homo sapien, Homo luminous, is available to everybody, regardless of race, creed, color, denomination, old or young. It does not have to be starting with a new birth, coming into this world as a baby. We quite literally, the elders have talked about, are making this quantum leap within a single generation. Within a single generation. That means if you're a baby, a teenager, a 20-something, a 30-something, a 40-something, or even all the way up to 80 years old, you are not left out of this process. You are included in this process if that's your heart's desire, if that is where your spirit pulls you. So no one is left out. This is for everybody. So we can let go of this idea that there's those of us who are conscious and helpful, and there's those that are shut down and harmful. Okay. So we that polarity thinking, that needs to we need to let go of this idea. That will help lighten our hearts as we move forward to understand that the Mother Earth, Pachamama, loves everybody equally. Spirit has love for everybody equally. The game here on this planet, in this realm, more accurately, is to wake up to who you actually are while you're in a biosuit living your life. What does it look like to chop wood and carry water when you're asleep versus chop wood and carry water while you're awake to who you really are? It's that simple. But it's not that simple, right? Because there's a lot of delusions that we need to work through. Many of the rules of the old paradigm were enforced through trauma, through pain, through suffering, through domination, through what I like to call power over dynamics, okay? And these power over dynamics were true to the age at the time. And now we're shifting to a new age, which means there's different rules. It's not about the power over dynamics anymore. It's not about us being taught what to think anymore. When we're asleep, we need to be taught what to think, and we need to be taught how to think, okay? Which kind of got left by the wayside a few generations ago. Right now, the systems that are in place in our reality is we're taught what to think, okay? And then we're socially enforced on what's okay to think and what's not, right? That's a power over dynamic. That's a vestige of that age. The awakened human is not one that needs to be taught like that. The awakened human is one that listens. And in the listening and in the observing, we learn so much. For example, if you sit under a tree and watch the landscape for a day. Now, granted, I know most people don't have that level of focus, but our ancestors certainly did. And there's a lot of wisdom teachings that come from listening, come from observing, right? So you can even study a single square, 1 foot square on the ground. Study that and watch, and you can learn profound insights about all of life in just that little section of nature, in just observing that landscape, closely observing the landscape. That is the quality that the new human is. That's the quality of the Homo luminous. We deeply watch, we deeply listen. And in that we learn. And not only do we learn, we also orientate. We feel how we naturally orientate. Okay. So the number one key, the very first key that I talk about is learning about the unseen world. Now there's the world that we see, right? You look around the room you're in, you see walls, you see a chair. There's this idea that if you throw something, it'll travel across the room and then drop. And as you sit in your couch, there is a clock ticking, and it's linear time, just click, click, click. There's nothing you can do to influence that time. Okay. So this is how the age of reason has brought us to relate to our what we call maybe 3D reality. Now, the key to getting past that box of possibility, that reality has a very narrow box of possibility. Okay. The key to getting out of that box is truly embracing what other kinds of sciences have told us. For example, quantum science has told us that none of this is solid at all. All of this is vibrating and moving. And in fact, all of this, as solid as it is, there's more empty space in this couch than, you know what I mean, than there is solidness to this couch. Now, in our everyday world, we discount that. There's a lack of the inability to bridge the two ways of thinking together. We'll say the Newtonian science versus the quantum science. And quantum science also tells us that time is relative. Time is not something that is this uncontrollable click forward. And the Western mind has been trained to have the blinders on so strong that they're unable to allow these two realities to live out in a congruent way on a daily basis. But if we look to the teachings of our elders, the teachings of the different indigenous lineages that went through great lengths. It's amazing that these teachings even survive, but they've successfully preserved enough of the ancient teachings that actually give us a roadmap of how to live with this unseen reality as part of the seen reality. Okay. So there's other sciences that help us explore this idea too, such as somatics. Somatics is the study of sound's impact on matter. Okay. And then we also have the teachings of Barbara Handclough, which if you guys ever listened to the chats years and years ago, especially in the beginning, the teachings of the alchemy of the 9 dimensions were life-changing for me, because she quite literally mapped out, dissertation style, how the unseen realities are they're all nestled together to create this experience that we call 3D. We think this experience is 3D, but actually there's many dimensions and unseen realities that are holding this reality together, this 3D reality. For example, the 4th dimension is a good piece. A lot of the language in the New Age movement and its previous versions was talking about humanity needing to wake up to the 4th dimension. Okay, I really feel like humanity has woken up to the 4th dimension, because now we clearly see how the collective field of consciousness is manipulated. And then we also see how the collective field can be influenced in a positive way. This is working with a collective experience, making things have a living a living impact on a reality, even though it's dead. Okay, this is like the idea of corporations being human. I mean, there's lots of layers to the 4D field, and I don't want to get too scattered into that, but in general, the mapping out of how these unseen realms influence this one was done beautifully by her work. And, Alberto also did a lot of great work, but his was more in the form of ceremony, in the form of tracking, which is an invaluable aspect to this process. Knowing the difference between tracking versus just so tracking is different than being psychic intuitive, though a lot of those skill sets overlap. But tracking is more about following energy to its source. Being psychic intuitive often includes communicating with non-corporeal beings, sometimes your guides, sometimes counsel, sometimes something in the Akasha to, to help unwind, resolve something that is a block in one's life. Now, the tracking has a different energy because it's not done with the psychic eye. It's actually done with your sacral center because it's all about the feeling, sensing, and it's bypassing things that have to do with the mind. Because, and this is really important because the mind has been infiltrated with a lot of belief systems and constructs from that old paradigm. So it's so pervasive to our experiences that we could be looking at something. It could be right in front of us, even yelling and screaming at us, and we will not see it. That's how strong these constructs of the mental field are when something is outside of something we can imagine. We cannot see it, but we can feel it. We can feel and sense something. As long as we don't try to put our mind to it and just be in the primal senses, we can engage with that energy and we can manipulate, influence what's happening in relationship to that. And not only that, we can discover and decide how we're going to relate to pretty much anything that's into existence. There is no good or bad when you start addressing the unseen realms in this way. It's more about relationship. What is my relationship to this energy? So the unseen realms have had a close connection with humanity not that far back in our history. When we go back to the Celtic lands, there's all sorts of stories of beings from the Fey realms and beyond that were interacted with humanity. You go into the East, into the I don't want to say just Middle East. I guess Eastern Europe would be in there too. The kingdom of the Moors, the kingdom of the Persians, right? They too have ancient lore of humanity engaging with these unseen beings. In the Moorish and Persian version, they called them jinn. Okay. So, and when you go into the shamanic teachings of the Americas, they too talk about nature spirits, the bear spirit, the tree spirit. So, all these different religions, all these different spiritual disciplines, practices from all around the world, every single one of them, without exception, talk about beings in this unseen world. So for us, waking up from Homo sapien to Homo luminous, we need to understand that these beings in these unseen world have had a deep relationship with us for hundreds and thousands of years, I know this is an alternative timeline than what we're told. This is another issue. But there are indigenous lineages that can recount their history going back 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 30,000 years. The Bonpo of the Himalayas, they track their stories, histories, and they even have an herbal formula that they create, a homeopathic herbal formula they have recreated every year going back, get this, 40,000 years. Their people, their tribe can trace their history, their stories, even their homeopathic formulas that they use in that herbal mixture going back 40,000 years. Now, if you were to bring that story to somebody who's an intellectual in the old paradigm structure, they would just say, oh, that's just myth and legend. They would completely dismiss it without any kind of investigation. It would just be, nope, that can't be. That's not right. Humanity didn't start until 15,000 years ago, right? But there is more evidence out there than not that supports these indigenous stories of our history. Barbara Hanclau, way in the beginning, when I was experiencing her, she would go into some ancient records from the Cherokee. She was a Cherokee record keeper in her, trained by her grandfather. And she went into a particular time where she went into the story of how consciousness worked, how women's systems worked before the times of the moon. So there's indigenous stories that tell us times before the moon ever existed. Okay. And I know this sounds, to a typical Western mind, this sounds outrageous, what I'm talking about. Like, what? This is all woo-woo, blah, blah, blah. But that is the result of this old paradigm way of thinking. If you truly do a scientific investigation into the history, and archaeological investigation into these alternate ideas of history, there's lots of proof to show just how ancient humanity is and just how advanced past civilizations have become. We have, for example, the myth of Atlantis. It's not really a myth it's a myth according to modern scholars, but if you go back to the writings of Plato and other respected philosophers, they speak of this civilization as though it really existed. And many of us have cellular memory of it actually existing. Same thing with Lemuria, the land of Mu. There's a really great show on, if you guys do Netflix, Graham Hancock. He got hammered so hard for decades, and bless this man's heart, he found the strength and the resolve to do a mainstream documentary on the science of these archaeological finds. And that first season particularly, he definitely proves beyond a doubt that the current historical narrative does not hold water. It does not hold water. And I don't want to go into the details of what he shared, but I highly encourage you guys to check out that documentary if you haven't already, because the evidence is overwhelming and very, very compelling, that really validates the stories of the true history of humanity shared with us by our indigenous elders and medicine grandmothers and grandfathers. Okay, so this waking up to the reality of this unseen world is absolutely essential for us to navigate this shift between the old into the new, the old paradigm into the new paradigm. And the fact is that we have an immense capacity to directly impact this reality by engaging with these unseen aspects. For those of you who do Akashic record work, you know what I'm talking about. You can quite literally shift someone's life by going into the energy of one's Akasha and clearing up certain things that are blocking that person subconsciously from living their truest life. All of that is unseen. None of that is concrete. Most of the time, people have to, not most of the time, I don't know if that's completely accurate. It's all in the energetic. It's all in the energetic, yet it has profound impact on that person's life that you just shifted. Similar thing with light body healers. Light body healing is our main modality, and that is quite literally rearranging the blueprint of your soul's unfoldment in this reality. And actually, when you're altering the blueprint, you're altering the trajectory of the soul throughout this galaxy and this cosmos. So it's not just this reality, but it does definitely have a very strong, noticeable, trackable impact when you make a shift on a light body level in one's life. There's lots of science around the impact of frequency and vibration that also has a significant impacting factor on how we experience this reality. Now you can hear sound, you can feel sound, but you can't see the sound, right? You can't see the data waves going through the field that you're in. You can't see the Wi-Fi. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't see this, but yet it is data, rich bandwidths of data traveling through the air, but you can't see it, but yet it deeply impacts our experience. Okay, so this embrace of the unseen realm and addressing what you need to help you get into right relationship with the unseen realm is a huge key to navigating this new paradigm. And oh my gosh, I'm totally off on time. All right, guys, I apologize. I'm going to end up going way later than I originally planned. I had some tangents in there that I had to hit. All right, the second key, and many of you guys probably already have experience with this. The second key is connecting in working with ancestral alchemy. Ancestral alchemy. Why is this important? This is very specific to, especially to psychic intuitive abilities. And let me explain why. I don't know if you guys remember, decades ago, there was a group out of India and China where they were training super psychic children. And what they were doing was that they would put mind folds on these children starting at very young ages, and and cultivate their ability to see in real time through the masks. So the masks are complete blackout masks. They call them mind folds. Alex Gray is a producer of those. And they were able to teach these children how to see in real time. They can read, they can write, they can paint, they can do all these things a normal person can do, but completely blacked out, blindfolded. Okay. And something that many of these children have reported is that when those capacities are opening up to their fuller spectrum, they sense, see, and engage with their ancestors. Not just their mom and their mom's mom, but ancestors going way back down their lineage. And the reason why this is so is that the psychic intuitive realms, this is different than the energy tracking, right? Energy tracking realms is you don't need to have a third eye open. You don't have to have that capacity activated to be a good tracker. It's always helpful to have as much capacity as possible to your access, but tracking doesn't necessarily need the psychic eye. It doesn't. But when your psychic intuitive abilities do open up, one of the very first realms that's right next to this realm that's in the unseen is the realm of the ancestors. And when you have a deep, connective, supportive, loving relationship with your ancestors, when that realm opens up, you get subconsciously and consciously reinformed on very deep levels. Now, if your psychic intuitive abilities open up and you don't have that kind of relationship established with your ancestors, very often what happens is the first thing you start to experience is psychic attack. You start to experience the dark forces. You see you become hyper aware, or aware of all the parasitic energies in the unseen realm, aware of the dark entities of the unseen realm. It's not such a friendly place. But when you embrace the ancestral alchemy, even before your psychic intuitive abilities open up to that level, you're paving the way for deep connection, deep support. Okay. And so this is why you want to do ancestral alchemy, because the Homo sapien into the Homo luminous means we have to wake up to all of our capacities so we can engage in this unseen reality and engage in the unseen aspects that quite literally create our experience. You need to have this component. So working with the ancestors it's so powerful and fruitful And I'm going to say liberating to not just you, but everybody connected to you, everybody in your family, not just your grandparents and your great grandparents going back before time was time, but also your children, your children's children, and your children's children's children. They all benefit when you are able to work with that ancestral alchemy. So when that's in place, when you are aware of how to relate to that, you are that much more empowered. You are that much more supported in this process when the ancestor alchemy is addressed. This past November, the Lightbody crew and I, in an inner circle of Lightbody, we all did that training with the masks, and it was a very, very different kind of experience. But pretty much almost everybody in that room that did the training was able to see without their eyes. They were able to see through the mask, colors, lights. Some could read, some can, so this isn't something that only certain people can do. This is a natural human capacity. This is a natural human capacity to be able to do this. And of course, what they needed to do in that particular training to open people up was spend a couple days doing things to challenge our beliefs about the unseen world, challenge our beliefs about reality. So, hold on a second. My thingy's going to die. I think my computer came unplugged. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. 1 second. All right. Okay, there we go. Sorry. About to have my computer shut down. Okay. So where was I at? Oh, yeah. So we began the training with psychic telekinesis, exploring our capacities for telekinesis. And wouldn't you know it, most of the people in the room had some level of telekinetic ability. Now, telekinesis, if you guys don't know, this is being able to move things with your intention without touching them, which is also a capacity for the new human. But the fact is that these belief systems that are leftovers, are remnants from this old paradigm, these belief systems, we need to do. We need to have experiences that cancel out these belief systems that we don't even realize are there. So that was a very interesting training. If you guys want to look that up and you're interested in doing that, it's the Vision Without Eyes, and you can tell them that Lightbody sent you. Rob would be really great to happy to hear that. All right. So the third key is stellar remembrance. What does that mean? Have you guys ever heard this concept that we're stardust? Okay. So my teachers, most of them came, all right, most of it happened in dream time and then eventually unfolded in the waking world. So I was in the abstract of it, the energy of it first, digested it for many years, and then started to have the experience in the waking 3D, what we call 3D world. So that was their way of conditioning my consciousness to engage with this. One of the things that they would say over and over again is that reality is not what you think it is. Reality is not what you think it is. Okay. And as I woke up and walked the path of that, and where I'm at now versus where I was are eons apart. But pretty much, as when we're talking about interdimensional realities, everything that is around us, we are actually looking at what's inside of us. So when we talk about stellar remembrance, I'll use the example of starseed origins, for example. In the alternate spiritual world, there's this concept called star seeds or earth seeds, right? And the idea here is that these humans, especially the younger ones, are encoded in a certain kind of way. They have a different kind of consciousness, and they are embodiments of star consciousness or embodiments of the Pachamama consciousness. Now, everything is one in the outer nesting doll, but there's these other layers within the nesting dolls that make delineations between, that create the experience of being separate. So it's not an either or thing, it's an and thing. So when we talk about starseed origins, for example, there's a remembrance that each of us embodies in a certain kind of way. For example, many people resonate as being like a Syrian or a Palladian. Okay. Now we're infinite beings in a biosuit. So it's not that we're specifically only that. It's that we are waking up to the point where we are a frequency match for the memories, for the consciousness that's emanated to us from those stars. I have a memory of actually coming to this sun from the sun of Sirius. Now, I can never, for the longest time, I could not validate that memory, but it's something that has always stuck with me. And what's even more bizarre is that as I walked my life, I would actually come across people that I knew were on that trip with me. They came. We traveled together on the same beam of light. Now, how ridiculous does that sound to an intellectual mind of the old world, of the old paradigm, right? But when, as the new human, the Homo luminous, the expanded, interconnected version of us, of course, there's aspects that are embodied, that are embodying the consciousness of Sirius. Of course, there's aspects that are embodying the consciousness of the Pleiades. Now, ancient cultures also show us this relationship going back tens of thousands of years. Egypt is a great example. In South America, there's many examples. If you go to Tikal or Teotihuacan or Ekbalam, I mean, there's many sites in Mexico, Guatemala, Central South America that show us this deep relationship with our star elders. And then there's also the creation stories that connect us to our stellar memory. Now, stellar memories don't necessarily mean that we're not from here or we don't belong here. That's not what that means. Many may feel that, though, because of the aggressiveness, the roughness, the edginess of this reality. But that's not necessarily, they don't come necessarily together. Stellar remembrance is remembering who you are in a more expanded concept. And when we start integrating that and realizing that, we can visit anywhere in the cosmos. We can visit with our consciousness anywhere in the cosmos by connecting with that frequency inside of us. Okay. I was once guided to facilitate a, there was a group of people I was guided to facilitate connecting with different insectoid ancestor star people. And I facilitated as an inner journey. And it was very interesting. There were people that came back to me afterwards and told me that they felt like they had a near-death experience with the journey, and I wasn't fully aware of what was going on. I was just following my guidance and what really felt right to do. And afterwards, of course, the feedback loop showed me that was the right thing to do. But there were a few people that felt like they had this amazing life-death experience, reconnection with deeper levels of self. And there were a couple people in that crowd that were like, I don't get it. It's not a ship. I mean, it should be a ship that's above us. It's not an inside thing. The inside thing is boring. I want to connect with the ship that's outside. That's the real connection with the ETs, is a ship of beings on the outside, And you know, I really didn't have much to say. I didn't know what to, I really didn't know how to address that, because in everything in my being, it's that it's an inside game. It's an inside connection. And when you're in alignment with the frequency on the inside, only then really can you see it on the outside. For example, there's lots of remapping of my life body I've done over the decades. And, you know, I see UFOs, or UAPs, they're called nowadays, all the time. Clear as day. I see them all the time. And it's not that, you know, I'm special and I can see these things. Really what it is that humans, most humans, not all, many humans are so disconnected from that frequency inside of themselves, they can't see it when it's right in front of them. I know you guys probably had similar experiences. Actually, I was dear sister Sherry Lynn, the creator of the Palladian healing discs. You guys got to check her website out. She's got some cool stuff. She told me a story where they were at a stadium and there was thousands of people around, and she saw, plain as day, a cigar-shaped UAP float over the playing field, you know, come float over the playing field real slowly. And then, you know, she's like, hey, do you guys see that? There's a UFO. No one else sees it but her, right? Or, I mean, I think she might have been with a couple other people. I really can't, I don't have the clear recollection of the whole story. Maybe she can share it again with us. But, and then, you know, when she says that, acknowledges that, it zips off, it flies away. Now, why does that happen? It's because we are in tune with these frequencies inside of us. And once we are in tuned, for example, with our starseed origins, we're attuned to that. Now we're going to see and experience the nurturing, the wisdom and guidance of that, not just inside, but externally as well. I went to the Psy Games in Virginia this summer, which was very interesting experience. But there was a gentleman named Chris Bledsoe that he wrote a book about his experience with ETs and a specific being that he called the Lady in White, had miraculous healing experiences. A really extraordinary story. Comes from, you know, small town, Southern, very simple kind of man. He seemed very sincere to me when I talked to him. And the level of persecution that this man went through, sharing his story, but he couldn't not share it because of the miracles happening and just like how intense it was, all this stuff. So he became really well known, and he's a UFO magnet, like many of us are, because we're in touch with these frequencies. So he had all these miraculous experiences with these ET beings. And now anytime he goes outside, especially at night, he can see UFOs. So he decided to invite everybody in a certain group of people to go to the rooftop and watch for UAPs, you know? I'm there for like 10 minutes. It's cloudy, and he's telling everybody, oh, you know, don't worry about it. You know, the clouds, you might still see something. They might show themselves. And a lot of people are like, no, it's not going to happen. But, you know, I walk out there and I'm out there for 5 minutes and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, it was so clear to me that we were underneath a huge freaking ship. I mean, humongous ship, looked like a triangle. And it's like, I see it clear as day, but, you know, there was probably 50 people or so. I don't know, might have been more or less. And they're like, oh, maybe tomorrow, maybe next time, you know? And I'm like, no, guys, look at this. And I pointed it out to the folks next to me, and they saw it, but I didn't, like, you know, do a big announcement or anything. But this is how it is. You remember on the stellar remembrance inside. Now you can recognize it outside. And this is why, you know, starseed origin tracking is really, really helpful. And, you know, in each of these keys, I'm not saying that, you know, you have to take them one by one. It's more about which one really draws you, because that's the other aspect of waking up to the new paradigm, that it's not the drudgery of life. It's about the joy of living. Okay. This is the feminine qualities of life, is enjoyment. Feminine energy medicine, feminine grandmother medicine, is the cornerstone is enjoyment. It's not discipline, hard work, focus, though all those play a part. But first, it must be fun. It must be joyful. Okay. If it doesn't bring a smile to our heart, then the picture is incomplete. So this is why this interstellar remembrance is so essential, is that each one of these keys will have a connection that goes right to this, what sparks joy from your being. Okay. For me, all of these keys do it, and they all did it in different ways. Now, Raylin, she's our resident astrologer. I met her decades ago, and she was my teacher for a good period of time. And I knew I was drawn into astrology, but I knew that I didn't necessarily resonate in the way that everybody did it. I knew that I wanted to know. I wanted to understand the symbols and feel into the different archetypes. And that I wanted to know that language, so to speak. I knew I wanted that. But I also understood that I had an aversion to the way everybody did it. Okay. But Raellen, it did not. The way that she holds it and uses it to open up awareness and consciousness, that resonated for me. And of course, we've been friends for a very long time ever since. So the last key, okay, I'm doing a little better on time here. The last key, and this is my, this work is very near and dear to my heart. The last key is awaking up the sacred dreamer. And this is actually something that brings all these keys together into a functional working value system in the new paradigm. So the value system are things like, number one, you are a part of nature. You and I, we are a part of nature. We are inseparable from nature. Nature is medicine. Okay. So that means we have a very high value of responsibility to care for nature. And then there's also the quality of the feminine, that feminine principle, which is beauty. We have a responsibility to bring beauty into our world. That's a value system. So just these two value systems, you can see how that conflicts with the old paradigm of, you know, wake up, work hard, get educated, get a job, pay bills, pay your taxes, die, right? That's a value system that commodifies everything. All the vegetables in the market have a barcode, and if they don't, the poor cashier doesn't know what to do, right? It's like there's a commodification of every little piece of sacredness that's in this reality. That value system cannot come with us into the new paradigm. A person's value is not about the money they bring. It's not about the asset that they hold. Like, they don't have authority and they're not an authority figure and a leader simply because they have status and money. That's what the old paradigm would do. The old paradigm would elevate people of higher social standing, financial standing, all that stuff, and give them authority. And quite literally, the Kyoto elders talked about this. This is the result of the Pachacuti. We are in the upside down world right now, where the people who are disconnected from themselves, the people who are disconnected from the sacred, disconnected from the magic, have become the ones in charge in this reality. When before the Pachacuti came, it was those who were deeply connected. It was the deeply mystical, sacred teachers that were the guides to humanity. This perception, or this in history of those ages, we had priest kings. These were sorcerers and sorceresses that were the leaders of the people. Okay. And that required interconnectedness, that required deep mystical knowledge, that required a relationship with the unseen realm, that required embracing one's ability to dream the world into being. You see what I mean? So So this is not a brand new concept that I'm talking about. This is a just painting the picture of the upside down world and the upside down values that come with that have governed the minds of humanity. This shifting from old paradigm into new is the setting straight of the world. We're going to turn, we're going to turn the world again. So now we'll be upright rather than upside down. And the dreaming of the world is the big piece that is the game changer for humanity. And that is our capacity, your capacity and mine, of dreaming this world into being. When you work in the unseen realms, it's not about the larger amount of people have override the individual. When you're working in the unseen realms, every single one of us have influence. Every single one of us, you, me, the neighbor. The question is, can we embrace it? Can we utilize that influence to create the world we want? And because we create this world with our spirit, when we create the world we want, it's a world that benefits all life because it's our spirit doing it. It's not the ego driver. The ego driver is the one that feels separate. The ego driver is the one that needs to protect and keep things safe, right? The ego driver is the one that has been massively manipulated and distorted, so we can't literally see the truth when it's in front of our face. Our spirit, however, is here, unyielding all the time, consistently. And when we harmonize ourselves and line ourselves up in such a way, we can quite literally live the purpose of why our spirit is here, why we went through the intense process of being born, being raised, living in this world, why we get out of bed every day. I don't get out of bed to wake up and pay taxes. Not that I don't pay taxes, I do, but that's a side note. I wake up to feel what is in my spirit to do. What is the act? What is the action I need to take? What am I being called to? What's the calling today? Dreaming the world into being sounds like an abstract thing that's somewhere out there, but it's an innate ability that every single one of us has. It's like breathing. And it's because it comes so naturally to us, we discount it. Dreaming the world into being, and I'm not talking about living your dreams like, money and fame and power, dominance, winning. That is not nature. Nature is something that is in relationship and connection with everything. That's nature. So dreaming the world into being is your aspect that is natural, that is a part of this nature, given the green light, so to speak, to bring the synchronicities into your life that create what it is you're dreaming of. Dreaming the world into being, those words do sound abstract, but when you do the actual work, like what we do in the Dreamtime Healing Project, you'll see that you don't even need to understand your dreams. It's not about understanding and translating dreams either. We track dreams. And as we track dreams, we pull that energy into this realm over and over and over again. Then all of a sudden, one day, it takes a while to do this work for it to really get digested. You'll start to recognize these synchronicities happen. All of a sudden, miracles are unfolding. All of a sudden, the impossible is happening. What your mind thinks is impossible is happening. That's the result of engaging the dreaming into being. That is something that we use tracking the feeling to go into, not the mind. The mind will only qualify something as what it can understand. And it only really values what it can understand. right? How many intuitive data hits have you ever had that you didn't understand, therefore you dismissed it, but then it came to pass and you realized, oh, why didn't I listen to myself? I totally knew that, right? So this need to understand is a handicap at the moment. But as we digest the energy and the encodement of that homo luminous nature comes forward more and more and more, we will be able to let go of the need to understand before we take action. We'll be able to understand either, you know, after we've taken action, then we see the bigger landscape, then we see the bigger wisdom, and then we are in awe of how amazing this reality is. It's like when you follow your feet in that way, and you look back and see what has taken place, you're like, for me anyway, I'm like, I could have never have organized that in 1,000 years. It doesn't matter what kind of team I would have there. I could have never thought, perceived, imagined that completely and that deeply. But your spirit can. Your mind can, but your spirit can. Okay, darlings, I'm so sorry. This went way over, way over. Thank you so much for still being here and hanging out with me. I'm going to go and look at some questions and see what we can extrapolate here. Okay. So there's some mentions here about the Fae class. Okay, so the Fairy Photo Workshop is in February, and that is taught by Laurel. She has wonderful video, beautiful reels and videos on our Instagram and our YouTube and stuff. So you can check her out and get her vibe. And if you sign up for that class before the end of January, you will get the bonus of experiencing our Essentials training. So Lightbody Essentials is the foundation training to acquainting us with everything that we need to relate in an empowered way to these keys. Because as I pointed out, is that, you know, if our multidimensional capacities start waking up without any kind of preparation or guidance, very often it's a scathing, painful awakening. Like the example I gave with the ancestor realm, when psychic intuitive abilities open up and the ancestor realm relationship is a mess, we very often, the first thing we have to work through is psychic attack and a lot of dark force work. But when you prepare, when you're prepared, then it's actually a graceful empowerment opening. And that's what Lightbody Essentials does. It prepares you for whatever one of these keys you're going to dive into, or I'm going to say whatever one of these keys is waking up inside of you. Okay. So if you sign up before the end of January for that fairy class, fairy photography class with Laurel, you'll be able to get a month of the Lightbody Essentials for free with that as a bonus. All right, so just to answer that question. Okay. The harmonics, disharmonics. Yes, thank you for that. Awesome. You may want to refresh the page. Okay, our ancient human lineage. Okay, yes, so the ancestor class is going into the ancient human lineage. Now I'm going to say this is not an intellectual download of the proper history. Okay, this is a very skilled, intuitive, shamanic tracking energy. So this will end up being deeply impacted by all of those who are present. So everybody who's present, their guides, entourage, and that of Stacy's, all that plays together in a tracking exercise to go deep into the ancient connections. So ancient ones is a term that has been used in different ways in different lineages at different times, mystical practices. For some, the ancient ones are talking about the star people before the star people. For others, the ancient ones are talking about the ancestral consciousness that is before time was time. And also ancient ones could be ones going back tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, or even the ancient origins of your DNA. Okay, so what ancient ones means is all going to be according to what that group energy is and the tracking of that. Okay, Tracking into our ancient origins could go into our DNA, in which case we have a lot of what people would call aliens, interdimensional beings that have contributed DNA to the human genome. The first one being, it's not the Neanderthal, it's the Sasquatch. Yes, according to indigenous records, humanity was created starting with the base template of Sasquatch, not the Neanderthal, which is what modern science, Western science tells us, but indigenous lore, indigenous teachings tell us it was not that. And then we also have Palladian ancestry DNA, Syrian ancestry DNA, Arcturian ancestry DNA. We have, of course, the reptilian DNA. We have dragon DNA. Okay, we have many. I think it's 12 altogether that have contributed DNA sequences into what the human genome is about. So going into the ancient ancestor work could also do that, go track into that kind of thing. Really, with Stacy leading, I'm telling you, there's no limit to what you can track into. So I highly encourage that class as well. Let's see, my myths feels very alive, like continuum of our 3D reality. Not the opposite of reality as we're being told. Yes, I'm totally on board with you with that. My teachers talked about mythology, our stories that we haven't seen the truth yet in. Yeah, we haven't seen through it yet. We haven't seen the actual deep wisdom truth that myth is there to show us. And this is also speaks to indigenous teachings happening through story, because story, it is better to learn through a story than to be told directly something. And this is why the whole AI thing, it just is not a frequency match, especially because right now the AI is the algorithms are predominantly limited by the fourth dimension consciousness. So once we allow AI to go into the higher dimensions to become a interdimensional AI entity, once that starts happening, then AI will give us something deeper to offer around that. But but that's a really important point of stories being the ideal conveyance to frame up human understanding. For example, origin stories. Most of the globe has an origin story that's rooted in, like, the Garden of Eden myth, right? Which creates a deep subconscious separation. But imagine if we had the origin story of a blooming of a being waking up to the most miraculous dawn and wanting to have more of that. One of the origin stories for the Kero were that their spirit quite literally came from the tear from the Sacred Mother. Now, I'm super shortening a very long stories, but my kids love to hear their origin stories. I tell them about, my pregnancy, the day they were born, what they were like. They love hearing the origin stories. And of course, I tell them how much I love them and how special it was. And you know what I mean? So our stories are a very, very potent way to frame up our mind to understand ourselves and other people. And that's why these myths are so important to keep and to retell. All right, then we have it's a fun way of traveling. The place cards of a monument will tell you one story, but the body and the land will share the true history of what actually happened. Yes, I've had that experience as well. Yes. Actually, we had a really cool experience of that when we were in Eastern Europe. We were in Croatia, and we didn't know what they say the official story is. We just knew what our bodies and what our intuition was telling us, and we had a profound journey through that part of Europe. Very, very mystical. Okay, so next, ancestral forgiveness, practice being, ancestral forgiveness practice being a part of this, having experienced mutation via the process. Okay, yes. So what they're asking about, yes, forgiveness. And I don't mean ego driver forgiveness, like when someone wrongs you and you tell yourself you have to forgive, but you kind of don't really forgive, but you pretend that you forgive. That's not what I'm talking about. The alchemical energy of forgiveness. That means it is a reality. It is a truth through many interdimensional nesting dolls coming directly from your spirit through the different layers of who you are and have integrated into your ego driver. That's true alchemical forgiveness. When you do work like that with your ancestry, yes, that is gold right there. Because in that process, you are going to liberate your ancestors from unmeasurable amount of shame, guilt, programming, blinders, traumas, woundings by you doing that. So yes, forgiveness is a huge component. Very, 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 very potent. Especially when it's done in the interdimensional process way. All right, then we have nature is medicine. Yeah, so awesome. Yeah, your heart opens when I say that. That's very cool. All right, then we have in the world of dreaming, there is no tax, free power, telepathic communication, and teleportation. Okay, so yes and no, yes and no, yes and no. So I'm deciding how to summate. Okay, here we go. In our human experience, the way it is in this moment, for most of us, we have the sleeping dream, which is the dreams that we have when we're sleeping. And then we also have the waking dream. And in our brain, deep in our subconscious, deep in our psyche, those two things are separate. Those two things are separate. But when you do the dream work, when you do the things that we do in the Dreamtime Healing Project, what starts to happen is that through alchemical forgiveness, through the reclaiming of lost aspects, through the cleaning up of your energy field, through really strengthening the autonomy of your center, through these things, what starts to happen is that there's this gray area that we were once blind to, where the waking dream and the sleeping dream overlap. And this right here is where those is how those synchronicities come to pass. Okay. So when we talk about certain things being possible in dream time in the sleeping and not possible in the dream time of the awakening, that's part of the illusion. They are actually the same. And here's a good example. This is one that I've given many, many times. It's one of my favorite examples because I'm not alone. The reason why I like a lot of the examples that I do share, and they're the same ones, is because I'm not alone in the process. Because a lot of people will dismiss something that I say and say, oh, that's you. You have skill. You're multidimensional. You see, blah, 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 blah. That's not me. I'm a normal human. I don't have those skills. And that level of dismissiveness is not helpful. It's not helpful for you. And I also, I went inside when I hear that. It's like, dude, I was just like you. I see myself in you. I mean, I was totally there, right? I mean, there's definitely times in my world where I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm just too messed up to fix. Like the wounding goes too deep. There's no hope for me. I mean, I've had that many times over and over again. But anyway, the separation is an illusion. And the reason why is not just what's in your subconscious. It's not just because of your beliefs. It's because of what the collective believes. It's the collective consensus that is in the way. And this is why this shifting from old paradigm into new paradigm is so profound, is because those collective beliefs that have been in that that kept us in that old paradigm box, the energy of that is dissolving, turning to dust, completely dissolving. Okay. So the example I have is that when the collective energy shifts, our reality shifts like that is when we used to do fire ceremony. So I was in a shamanic training for many, many years. This is with Alberto particularly. And there's something called fire ceremony that we would do. We did, my friend and I, my medicine sister and I, we would do fire ceremony every new and full moon for 10 years, maybe. Anyway, so what happens is that you literally change the quality of the fire. So, for example, you have a fire burning. You touch the fire, you get burned. You put something into the fire, it's going to get consumed with the flames. You know, so there's certain ideas that we have about fire that all of us collectively agree upon. But when you start to create bubbles where the collective does not have that consensus about fire, you can witness in real time a different kind of fire, a different nature from that fire. You can actually put something in that fire that embodying a certain kind of energetic. And because of the energy, it will not burn. I mean, I've done this with tissue paper, putting tissue paper into a bonfire and have it not burn. Defies logic. But because of the bubble, because of the consensus, that was an energy dance that was going on. I was putting that tissue paper full as embodying a certain kind of energy and putting into the fire. And the flames were telling me, not yet. This energy cannot burn yet. It is not going to shift yet. Okay. Also, what we would do in that bubble where there was a different kind of consensus in the relationship to fire is that we can put our hands in the fire and we won't get burned. We can pull the life force of that fire into our very being and it will not burn. In fact, it'll cleanse and purify. So this was an experience that we had twice a month for a decade. This is not something that was just a one-off weird miracle thing. This is something that we purposely cultivated with intent over and over and over again. And this is how the consensus reality works. This is why telekinesis is something that's only, superheroes do. This is why teleportation is something that is, totally airy-fairy, an idea to have. This is why, we have certain resignations about what life has to be in the waking world. But this is why I'm talking about this stuff, is because on a collective level, this is shifting. All of those structured belief systems, limiting belief systems that cultivated the rules of our reality of the old paradigm are dissolving. And in the chaos of that dissolving, there's something different emerging that is actually harmonic in alignment with the truth of who we are. Not who we think we are, the truth of who we are as cosmic infinite beings embodied in a biosuit. Yeah? All right. Any other questions, guys? I think this is, if I missed anything, maybe you can repeat them. I didn't wear my readers, so I could be missing something in the blur of things here. Oh, that's the other thing. That is an interesting re-informing of the biosuit in that vision without eyes training that I was talking about. So there were people of different levels of progress in that work, and one of the ladies that I talked to, full on vision, can see very clearly, worked really hard to get all of her visual windows to be in front of her so she can just put the mask on and read and walk around and do all these things. But something she said was very, very interesting. And I think Rob, the instructor, also carried this message on into the teachings. And she said that by exercising her brain's ability to see without her eyes, she actually transcended the need for her glasses. Her physical vision self-corrected with her cultivating the ability to see without her eyes. Now that is a massive statement. So all these things are available to us because it's time. It's not because, we've finally reached this critical mass, but we have reached this critical mass. But the nesting dolls of the unseen realms that is creating the here and now reality in those unseen realms. The structure, the frequencies, the consciousness is all holding that space and percolating into our here and now reality for this alternate thing to happen, because it's time. Prophecy is different than psychic intuitive perceptions or timelines. Prophecies are talking about a word that has been spoken that creates a reality through the many interdimensional realities of our waking world. Those are prophecies, and that's what makes them so different. And this time of the emergence of new earth, or the emergence of the new human, or the new paradigm, all these different languages are talking about the same thing, and they're coming from multiple sources all over the world. This is how you know something really is something. When there's only one person saying it, and they're the one person that knows the truth, or they're the one that, the only one that this or that, that is an ego driver. That is an ego driver trip, without exception. Moving into the interconnected nature of who we are is a we game. It's not an individual game. We only can do it together as a collective, because it's an entire reality shift. Yeah, I can shift my reality and live my life in peace and harmony and blah, 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 but the rest of the world doesn't, just in my immediate vicinity. That's not what the new paradigm is about. The new paradigm is the whole of humanity living differently. This is why being the guru, living in the mountains in isolation, is not the path for those of us who are the visionaries of what's becoming. All right, my darlings, if there are no other questions, if there's a delay, I hope you guys can let me know. I don't think I do have my phone. Okay, so you can text me if there's something. So just to remind everybody, these keys, whatever resonates with you, the engaging the unseen realm, exploring the realm of the elemental and fairies, nature spirits, okay, or going into the work of ancestral alchemy, going into the embracing stellar remembrance, remembering your star origins, your deeper origins, or the dream work. If any one of these keys could be the starting point. Any one of these keys you can magnetize. It's just a matter of feeling, sensing, and being aware of your yes for it. That frequency match. For me, things had to go pretty slowly. It started off with stellar remembrance. That's how it started for me. And then it went into ancestor stuff. And then it went into nature spirits. And, for me, it had its own level of progression. Yours is going to be the same way. The way you and I progress into the new paradigm, the way we do it is irrelevant. It's the fact that we are connected in doing it. You see what I mean? You and I are connected. You're connected with your neighbor. You're connected with the environment around you. You're even connected to the technology structures around you. We are connected, inseparable. All right, darlings. Thank you so much for being a part of this process. Thank you so much for supporting us and being a part of this conversation. If there are other questions, other things that come about that you want to, that you have questions about, we have another opportunity to do this next week on the 8th. So we'll play that by ear, see how that goes. And if you guys want to see us live, please come out to the Body Mind Expo in Aurora. This is in northern Denver. There's a whole bunch of practitioners. Colorado is a very interesting place. There's a lot of cutting edge people here. So I've looked through the map of vendors, the kind of presenters and stuff, and there's some very interesting folks. So we're not the only ones. Lightbody Academy is not the only ones that are on the cutting edge. And I look forward to meeting these people. But yeah, do come down, pay us a visit, maybe get a mini clearing from our booth, and come to our talk that we have on the 11th at 11 a.m. That would be wonderful to see you and to interact. And, this interconnected thing is something that the more we embrace, the easier it seems things become. You know what I mean? All right. And with that, I am going to sign off. Until next time, darlings. Mwah, mwah. Sweet dreams. Until next time. Until next time we see you. Bye-bye.